So I wanted to talk about how AI is becoming this huge thing, in the industry, in the IT industry. And not just IT industry, but it's spreading across a lot of different domains. And now every enterprise software companies, which have been holding their forte in, these big giant companies are trying to say or trying to prove that they are also AI native. For example, really there's SAP, there's Salesforce. So every one of these enterprise companies are trying to come up with a strategy to become the next gen technology and prove that they are still into the leadership board. But why this AI bubble is or not bubble? I mean, I should not say bubble because I don't think this is a bubble. But how come this technology, which has just it's been a few years, many of you might think it's been a few years that has come up, and suddenly it is taking over the world. But and with respect to other technologies that you might have noticed, generally saying, when a technology is innovated, when a new invention comes in, whether it is your domestic appliance like a microwave or like a vacuum cleaner, these things takes time to get adopted and get deployed, and finally it becomes like a mass market. So there's always a curve from how it goes into the initial market, which are experimental in nature, reaches into the a little bit of gain the market and gain the profits in a way, and then suddenly it becomes like a mass market thing. So there's like a whole curve into that. Not talking about that, but I'm just trying to compare and tell you that this AI thing is not actually new. It's basically part of the same machine learning domain that has been around in the technology world, and I think every place, every industry, some form of machine learning has always been there. And I think this video will might reach to non-IT people as well. So basically, machine learning is very basic in concept, which basically says, hey, take this data, analyze this data, and try to predict the next point or data point. So, for example, it could be your sales figures. So, let's say your company is making X amount of dollars or rupees in monthly basis or daily basis, maybe. And then you want to predict the next hop. So, you will understand, okay, there's a particular Black Friday sale or a Diwali sale or a winter sale or something like that. That time the sales picks up. So what you do with this data is totally up to the organization. Some companies try to gain more traction in the non-engagement season so that they can generate more profit. So this topic has always been there. Now this AI thing is basically making, and they've come up with a generic level of model where they are going to predict the next letter pretty fast, and also the probability of getting the right word is better in comparison. And because it is trained on very general data which is publicly available, that's why you see like ChatGPT and Gemini and Perplexity and a lot of these algorithms trying to pick up words. And if you remember the first version, I don't know how much familiar you are with all these LLM models, but basically when they started up, they were not really good with max, because max is not about predicting the next letter. It is about calculating the next calculating the formula and getting the output from it. So it is fixed. It is not predicting, it is fixed. And that is a very key difference. That bridges the gap between, now the LLM doesn't need to predict also, but it needs to do some calculation also, right? So there is a mix now. You're also doing machine learning, but you're also trying to understand and understand the context, and then pick things from those particular prompts and the equation, so you can get to the fixed output as well, not just the predictable output. But overall, everything is happening around data. So of course, whenever, even when I gave the example, it's always about, if you have this data, you can get this prediction, you can get this output, you can apply your LLMs. If you want to build your own LLM, that's also fine. They're very There are many open source LLM present that you can try and just experiment with your own data. But the quality of your LLM basically depends on the data. And that is one of the key things which creates this differentiation about now. If LLMs have become common, or let's say one of the LLM is like doing more better than other players. Let's say Gemini is really trending right now and it's doing great job. Even with my own experiments, it has been doing quite well in comparison, recently especially. So let's say if Gemini is the LLM model, then how does it fits into enterprise software category? And that is where the interesting things happen. So many people think, okay, now LLM is there, nobody needs to work and nobody needs to do anything because LLM is going to predict everything and be right all the time. But understand, this is a prediction, right? So it can also be wrong. So if it is a prediction and it can be wrong, then enterprises cannot, tackle that situation. They don't want to lose money over some prediction, right? They want short results, not prediction. Of course, they can take help of prediction so that the workload gets reduced, but they want short, action. And that should not, that should take care of governance, that should take care of, legals and all those sorts of things which a big organization faces. Now, that is the key thing here. So AI needs this data, but AI also needs the right data and a properly governed control if you really want to apply AI in enterprise level companies. And exactly this is the new market. So ServiceNow has come up with Workflow Data Fabric. It is a host of capabilities. It has multiple capabilities underneath it. But the word should be able to, tell you the gist of it. So it is basically combining data, workflow in a fabric. Let me explain that. So we talked about data and how data is very important for your AIs to work. Even if you don't have AI, you will need data for your workflows to work. So with ServiceNow's workflow data fabric, it's joining these two things in one. You have the powerful ServiceNow workflow engine, and then you take the workflow data fabric to connect the different multiple sources of data in one organization and then merge between the two. And that is the fabric that it becomes. So, what is the true difference between, let's say, because this is like a common generic statement, right? You merge the workflow with data and you get a fabric that will help you to achieve AI. Okay, very simple, very straightforward. But what makes ServiceNow a bit different? And it's more about qualitative, but also about features. So let me focus on the workflow piece. So ServiceNow has always been a leader into the workflow space. Roll back to 2020 or maybe 2021, 2022, 2023. We don't have to roll back because ServiceNow has consistently been the leader in IDSM and ITIL space, basically all the different enterprise software that we have. So it has leadership ranking in all of these. It has a very powerful workflow engine which works flawlessly, and customizing on top of these workflow is easy. And the other interesting thing about ServiceNow is it's one single platform, or I would say one single data model to be very precise. Because if you understand the basics of ServiceNow, I started as a developer, and when I understood the basics and got cleared with that, it was very easy to understand the other products and other capabilities of the ServiceNow platform because the underlying architecture remains similar in a way. So the data model is similar. So it's very easy to dig down and understand. What advantage this one single data model gave to ServiceNow is on the data part. Because when I was saying that AI needs data and AI needs good quality of data, right? So when you have a single data model, it automatically means that your AI will receive the ultimate quality data because it is having single data architecture. It can understand and hop into multiple different tables. Just giving a very layman type of situation. So it can hop onto multiple different tables, understand the context, put descriptions on top of it, and then take it forward and perform the next whatever AI operation or AI capability that you want to use. So that gave the advantage. Okay, workflow, single data model. Now, with Workflow Data Fabric as a product, it comes with a host of capabilities. Integration Hub is something which was already there with ServiceNow. It basically provided your low code, no code way to integrate with different products. And why I said code? Because it can also help you to write script also. It does support scripting, but the preference is not to use it, of course. So it has low maintenance and things like that. And it is very easy to pick up things like, to give you a really straightforward example, I took one of the documents from like what was it, how to set up Jira spoke and all that. It literally took me like 10 minutes, of course, because 10 minutes to complete that whole video and understand okay what to do next, because I already had the credentials sorted. Okay, now that is just one example. Now when you have these two things together and you come up with a workflow data fabric in order to provide multiple capabilities to connect these different data points. You also get zero copy connector, so you don't really are copying the data into a different space, but you're just fetching the data from multiple different spaces in a very speedy format. You have, in Stream Connect for your streaming data. So you have these different capabilities. I'm not going to deep into any of these capabilities right now, at least in this video, because otherwise it will be very long video. So basically, these capabilities help and get the data or connect, I would say, connect the data of the whole organization and feeds it into service. Now, one can perform workflows that will be basically simple automation. So you take the data from these two different systems. Maybe it is workday data, maybe it is HR related data, maybe it is sales related data. It could be any data, and then you merge the between the two. You understand, okay, the sales figures go high, put this thing, or maybe the order form is getting like $5,000 amount. Then take extra approval from the senior high manager or something like that. That is all automation. That is all workflow side, and that is where ServiceNow was already leading it. With AI, we feed all of this data again, but this time the prediction of action is happening through AI. So, what action needs to be taken? Earlier, it was manual, right? So, you manually have to decide, or you manually have to design a workflow which is on rule basis. So, when the rule triggers, do this. When the rule triggers, do this. It's like if else, if else, if else, like that. But with AI, it's not if else. It's like you take the data, and then you have a thinking zone. So you're thinking, you're analyzing, understanding, and then you have hundreds or thousands of actions to take on, and you pick and choose which action to perform next. And then the best part comes in. As I was saying, in organizations, it's very important to, of course, take the right action, but it is even more important to not take the wrong action, right? Otherwise, it can lead to loss. And losing money is the least favorite thing of any organization. So this is where the governance piece comes in. And again, going back to the single data model, when you have a single data model, which is simple to understand for anybody starting off, that means putting governance up on top of this makes it even easier and gives a bird's eye view into the whole organization. So with Workflow Data Fabric, you're connecting all your different data sources, different repositories, any type of data basically, pushing into workflows and AI. So your AI can take the best action forward, right? And then you have these AI control tower, which is another capability, but basically that provides you governance. And that is, I think, where everyone should be heading because if you have been following the AI news, I mean, there are a lot of catastrophic failures, which where AI has been giving some random things to kids, which it should not, and a lot of bad things have happened. So governance becomes very important. So I think I should end my video because it's getting very long. But I really wanted to talk about AI and how ServiceNow is really a key differentiator in that way. Now, please feel free to comment if you want to know a little bit more, or maybe a deep dive into any of the capabilities of Workflow Data Fabric. I'll be happy to, show that, talk about that. Or if you just want to have a conversation, feel free to reach out. Bye bye.